The ripple effect, how one act of kindness changed a life. The rain poured heavily onto the bustling streets of the city. Cars honked, pedestrians hurried by, huddled under their umbrellas, trying to escape the downpour. Among the crowd was Daniel, a quiet 10-year-old boy walking home from school. His clothes were drenched because he had given his umbrella to a friend earlier that day. Daniel lived in a small apartment with his mother, who worked long hours to make ends meet. Most days, he walked home alone, lost in his thoughts. Today was no different, and as he trudged down the sidewalk, he thought about school, the bullies who made fun of him for being quiet, and the constant feeling of being invisible. As he turned the corner near his apartment, something caught his eye. Sitting on a bench under the relentless rain was an elderly man. His clothes were tattered, and his shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world rested upon them. His face looked worn, tired, and wet. People rushed past without so much as a glance. But Daniel couldn't look away. His heart pulled him toward the man. Should he do something? Should he offer help? He wasn't sure, but his feet moved before his mind could. Daniel hesitated as he approached the man. He didn't know what to say, but he felt he couldn't just leave him there. "Excuse me, sir," Daniel said softly. "Are you okay?" The elderly man looked up, his eyes weary but kind. "I'm fine, boy. Just a little cold," he replied, his voice weak and gravelly. Without thinking, Daniel unzipped his own jacket and handed it to the man. "Here," he said. "You need this more than I do." The man's eyes widened, surprised by the boy's generosity. For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then, a small smile appeared on his face. "Thank you," the man said softly, his voice filled with gratitude. Daniel sat down next to him on the bench, despite the rain still coming down around them. "What's your name?" Daniel asked. "Thompson. Call me Mr. Thompson," the old man replied. They sat in silence for a while, the sound of rain pattering on the ground around them. Daniel felt nervous, unsure of what to say, but Mr. Thompson spoke first. "You know," Mr. Thompson said, "life isn't easy. I've had good days and bad days, lost a lot, gained a little. But kindness, son, that's what keeps the world spinning." Daniel nodded, unsure how to respond. He had always felt like no matter what he did, it wouldn't make a difference. But sitting here, next to Mr. Thompson, he started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, small acts of kindness could matter after all. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel found himself visiting Mr. Thompson after school nearly every day. They would sit together on the bench, rain or shine, and talk about life. Mr. Thompson shared stories of his youth, how he once had a family, a successful career, but through a series of unfortunate events, lost everything. Daniel learned about the hardships the man had faced, and in return, he shared his own struggles, about the bullying at school, the distance he felt from his mother, and the loneliness that often crept into his life. "I know what it's like to feel invisible," Mr. Thompson said one day. "But the thing is, you're not to the people who matter." Daniel found comfort in Mr. Thompson's words. He felt like he had found a friend, a mentor who understood him in ways others didn't. One day, Daniel noticed Mr. Thompson seemed weaker than usual. His voice was softer, his movements slower. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked. Mr. Thompson smiled weakly. "Just tired, boy, just tired." Daniel didn't think much of it at the time. He said goodbye as he always did, and promised to visit the next day. The next day, Daniel rushed to the bench after school, eager to see Mr. Thompson. But when he arrived, the bench was empty. He waited for an hour, hoping Mr. Thompson would show up, but he never did. Day after day, Daniel returned to the bench, but Mr. Thompson was nowhere to be found. Worry gnawed at Daniel's heart. Where had he gone? Had something happened to him? Daniel started to feel guilty. Maybe he hadn't done enough to help. Maybe there was more he could have done. A week later, a letter arrived at Daniel's home. It was from a law firm, addressed to him and his mother. Confused, they went to the office. Inside, the lawyer greeted them warmly. "You're here because of Mr. Thompson," the lawyer said, handing Daniel an envelope. Daniel opened it and found a note written in Mr. Thompson's familiar handwriting. It read, "Dear Daniel, I wasn't always the man you knew. Once, I had wealth, power, and a family. But life took all of that away. I chose to live simply, to understand the world in a different way. But your kindness, Daniel, reminded me of what truly matters. I've left something for you and your mother. Use it well. It's not the wealth of the wallet that matters, but the wealth of the heart. Oh, your kindness has restored my faith in humanity. The lawyer explained that Mr. Thompson had been a wealthy philanthropist, living anonymously to experience life from a different perspective. He had left a significant portion of his estate to Daniel's family, ensuring their financial security. With the money Mr. Thompson left them, Daniel's mother was able to work fewer hours and spend more time with him. Daniel, inspired by Mr. Thompson's words, decided to use part of the inheritance to start a community center for underprivileged children. He wanted to create a place where kids like him, who felt invisible, could find hope and kindness. Years passed, and Daniel, now older, stood in front of the community center he had helped build. As he looked at the smiling faces of the children playing inside, he thought of Mr. Thompson and the lesson he had taught him, that even the smallest act of kindness could create ripples that change lives. Turning to the camera, Daniel smiled. You never know how far a little kindness can go. It's like a ripple. Once you set it in motion, it can change everything. The screen fades to black, and a final message appears. Be the reason someone believes in kindness again.